Welcome to the MindGrowRadio Storyteller Series. I am your host, Stephanie Kathan, and I have a question for you. What if the thing that's holding you back from confidently selling your expertise wasn't your strategy, but maybe your self-perception? I know this was a problem that I had, and today's guest, I'm so excited about today's guest. She is a powerhouse sales strategist, an author, a TEDx speaker, a truth teller, especially when it comes to selling your expertise. She is the founder of the Entrepreneurial Connection Movement, right? I'm a member of that group, but I get tongue twisted saying it. And not only that, but she is a trusted advisor and somebody that I am so thankful to have in my world. Please help me welcome Renee Hribar to the MindGrow Studio.
Thank you. The crowd goes wild. Thank you so much. That was very kind. Very kind. Yes.
First of all, you are friggin' awesome. You're one of my favorite people. I stalk you on socials because you have so many nuggets that you are dropping on a continuous basis for us. And when it comes to selling your expertise, I know for myself, there's this imposter syndrome thing that happens. Huge. And we start to think who are we to be selling our expertise and who are we to be charging? I get that a lot because I'm in a spiritual based kind of business and people are like, if you're so spiritual, why are you charging? And you have to kind of really work through that stuff. And you have helped me tremendously to be able to just not only step out of my comfort zone as a business owner, but to be able to step into my gifts and my expertise.
Yes.
And your trajectory here with what you're doing with your business and your podcast that's coming out, it's amazing. But did life always look like that? What was it like when you first started?
Well, that's a great question. So thank you for having me. Yes, I have been in business. This is my third company. I've been in business since 1996. I had a sales agency for 15 years. I took 2 years off and I became a yoga teacher just to chill out after I sold that first company. And then I met 2 doctors that were my yoga students and they had a cherry juice drink that they couldn't sell. I was like, I'll help you. I ended up consulting them and then become a partner in the business. We grew that. I grew that. They made the product. I sold it to 180 grocery stores. And I went to a huge food show in Jacob Javits Center in Manhattan called Food Show East. And I sold literally tons of cherry juice. And then I sold the purchase orders to our competition. So I've had 2 other companies that I started, grew, and sold, but never alone. I always had great advisors, great coaches, great mentors, great team members, great partners sometimes. And when I came in the online space, it was when my child went to kindergarten, right? When I found out I was pregnant with my child, I knew I wanted to be with him. I wanted to be the mom, at home that I really never had. I mean, ultimately we want what we have never experienced, right? We want new things. So when he started going to kindergarten, I was like, well, what am I going to do with my day? My husband's at work. My friends are busy. They're not going to be as available as I want to be. And so what can I do? And I thought, well, let me see what's available online. I had bought a book and I had come in the online space and, it took me a while. I was working about 5 hours a week. If camera facing, working with clients or marketing my business. And then, my kid was only little, so he really didn't even go for a full day. It wasn't like even 8 hours,
Right.
So to answer your question, when I first came online, when I first started this business in this era that we're in of online, virtual, you can work with anybody on any time zone, anywhere. Everything was a heavy lift. What is broadcast email? What is opting in? You give somebody something for free and then they give you their email address and then you educate and nurture them via email. How does that work? I mean, my brain was cracking because I just didn't understand. I had not done it before. And so even though I'd have the same skill set that I'd always had, now it was put in a different container, even just using Zoom before, I started this business in 2017. So before COVID and, Zoom became really super popular and user friendly during our pandemic. But ultimately I had to learn where to press the button. You know, we're recording in Riverside today. I didn't know what Riverside was a couple of years ago. Never even heard of it. I was like, we're going to be meeting where? At the river? What are you going to do? Put me in?
Are we bringing a picnic?
Right. So to your listeners, if you're thinking about what she's doing right now, it's how do you eat an elephant, right? One bite at a time. My day on Monday, this week, I said to my husband, I'm like, I did more today than I usually do in a week today. Like, so much. I mean, and it was like efficient, effective, planned, prepared, but that's because I knew what to do. It's just like watching my grandmother make lasagna, right? Like she just knew what to do. It was fast. It was easy. So I had this belief that lasagna was easy to make because I saw her do it so efficiently. It's not easy to make.
No, it's not. It's time consuming and it's expensive because you need lots of ingredients.
Right.
But you touched on something there, and I want to just deepen into that. You said you believed it was easy, so it was.
Right.
And it's that way with selling, right? Because I know when I first started selling, we're always selling. It took me a long time to realize that. Like, we're always selling. But when you are doing it for yourself as your soul, like when you're really in it and you have to create this income because there is not another option right now.
Right.
And that's mostly how entrepreneurs start. That's how I was, mostly because I don't like being an employee.
That's right.
You know,
I'm doing this, right. I'm going to make my own price.
I really had issues in my mindset with my beliefs. I did not believe it was going to be easy. I did not believe that I was even worthy of selling my expertise. Like, who am I to think I'm an expert? All this stuff. Did you have that stuff when you started?
Well, yes, of course. But you know, belief is perception, right? And perception is, we make that. Like there's a great State Farm commercial that I tell my clients about where it's the same lines read, but with different context, right? Like the daughter walks out in the driveway and she's like, oh, geez. And it was her dad giving her a car. And there's another clip of another guy walking outside to his driveway and a tree had fallen on his car. And he's like, oh, geez. Different context, right? Different perception. Right. Now, also different scenarios, but at the same time, how do we perceive it? Like you said, that's like, you know, chapter 1 of my book. We're really always selling. So if you've ever been the one to decide with your friend group where you're going to go for your girls' night out that month, or what book you're going to read for book club, or what restaurant you're going to eat at for takeout on Saturday night or date night or whatever, with your friends or your spouse or your whatever, it's that's selling. It's you saying, I want this thing and I know it's going to be good for everybody. So let me tell you 3 reasons why I think we should do this, and being open to the fact that if they don't agree, it's okay. You're not going to throw your purse down and be like, that's it, we're not friends anymore. No, you're like, okay, fine, we'll do burgers this week, but next week tie.
Right. When it comes to collecting money or asking for the sale, I know for myself, I had a lot of resistance around it. I'm like, I don't want to ask them for money. I want the people to just flow to me, and I don't want to have to talk with humans.
Well, it's a challenge if you're going to have to work with them eventually.
Right. But when you're starting, like, that's what the imposter syndrome makes you shrink down to.
Yeah. Agreed.
And so what is something that somebody can do to kind of squash that or release it or dismantle those beliefs?
Great question. I do this all the time with my clients. Belief shifting is not in my formal title, but it's 100% a part of the work that I do with my clients. So the first thing I do for them to see their value, like numeric value, is to track their time. Just like my trainer at the gym has me track what I eat, which is always very enlightening, right? If you've ever done that, you're like, oh, starting to make a lot more sense now why I can't fit in my pants.
Those things count? Oh.
I mean, when I eat the leftovers off my kids' plate, that counts? Dang it. Jeez. So when you start to measure what you've done, so it's not even forecasting, it's looking back. So I have them take a week and I say, listen, just every time you're marketing your business, write marketing on your calendar and block off how much time you just spent doing it. And we quantify what that actually means for them. Okay. And every time you work on this client's project, write that client's name and write what you did, but after you just did it. So you just did it, just type it in your calendar. And on Google Calendar, it starts to create time blocks. And I say, color code everything. Marketing is blue and family's red and clients are green. And, we just give everybody a color code. And they can visually see after just 1 week how much time they're actually spending, investing, supporting their clients. So that $500 or $5,000 or whatever price tag they already had on it, they start to realize, oh, I see. So I'm like, well, let's say, how much did you make at your last job? And they're like, I don't know, I made $100 an hour. Okay. So if you worked for 10 hours on this client's business over the past week, and you only paid yourself what you used to make, and you didn't pay, and this is, like gross, not net. This is what you're making on top line. You own the business. You got to pay taxes twice. So you're not even making what you were making. And because you're charging this person $500 for the month, you just spent, if you're only paying yourself $100 an hour, which is what you used to make, you just spent $1,000, but you only accepted like $250 for this week. Oh, they go. So immediately they start realizing, I see. So something's got to give, right? Either what you're delivering or how much you're charging. And that creates a crack big enough for them to go to look through and go, I see it. I see it now. And that's a huge shift.
Huge shift. And I can't wait to start practicing that tip. I'm like, oh my gosh, I cannot wait to listen to this replay because I listen to my own stuff and I take notes on what my guests say. And I recommend that you do the same.
Yes.
One of the things when you're asking for money,
mm-hmm.
and you're thinking about your worth and what to charge.
Yep.
It feels like sometimes you get a pit in your stomach and you're like, yep. Who am I
mm-hmm.
to charge this?
Mm-hmm.
And now I understand the importance of investing in myself, but I didn't always. And when you're first kind of really diving in, you have to
mm-hmm.
invest in yourself.
Right. Right.
Can you talk about what that does as far as like dismantling the beliefs and
mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and telling that imposter, to F off?
Yeah. So an activity, like a physical activity that you can do is you can ask people that you've already worked with, whether it was for paid or free, because a lot of us become an entrepreneur because we were already doing something that we loved and it was so easy for us. We just did it for our friends. We just did it for people that we knew. And then they sent us more people. We're like, yeah, sure, no problem. I'll do it on Saturday. No problem. Whatever, because we had our regular job over here. And then we had this other thing that we just happened to be super good at and we loved and that people were coming to us for. Until this point, we're like, well, maybe I should charge for that. Or they said, you should charge for this, right? So the physical thing you can do is ask them, hey, listen, I'm evaluating my value. I'm evaluating what I should be charging. Just tell them straight up. They're going to be understandable. And I'm just trying to figure out what value would you place on what I gave you? Is it $100? Is it $1,000? What are those intangibles, right? The things that aren't necessarily listed on a window sticker, but are priceless. But we got to put a number on it. So what would that number be? And just have that conversation with them. If it's one person, if it's 10 people, that's a great place to start. Say, I'm working on something. I need your help. Based on what we did, if you were to put a price, if you were my salesperson and you made 50% of the commission of what I charged, what price would you put on it?
That's a great woohoo. The nugget drop right there. That was a big one. As you're listening to this, write things down because Renee will drop gems all over you. And when you grab them up, you can build on them and you can create something.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter what the voices say inside your head.
They don't stop, by the way. It's like a chronic condition. It's like Lyme disease. You don't really cure it. You just learn how to manage the symptoms. So don't try to get rid of your imposter syndrome. Just learn how to manage the symptoms.
Oh, that is such a great tip, because we're like, we want to eliminate it. We want to squash it.
Mm-hmm.
But what we can do is kind of dismantle those beliefs of it.
Yeah.
When you on your entrepreneurial journey, how important was like mentorship to you, or getting a coach?
Huge. I've always had coaches. And when I first started in my entrepreneurial journey, I was assigned a coach because I had purchased a territory, and that person was they didn't call themselves a coach. It was kind of like a part of the exit for them. But I looked at them as a coach, as a mentor, as a guide, and I learned so much. And then I started getting to like Michael Hyatt's world and like other like traditional Tony Robbins. Like, this is the 90s, by the way. So there weren't, it wasn't the internet. So it was whoever could afford ads. Brian Tracy, but it was all, notice it's all dudes,
right?
First of all, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's just there's a different energy when it's a woman teaching another woman, because we're different. Not that we're better or worse. It's just we're different. We have different concerns, different needs, different ways that we see the world. Literally, we are anatomically not only different at exterior but interior. How our brain lights up, how our eyes are shaped, the cones in our eyes. Why do girls always prefer pink, or some baby girls, right? Even if you show them orange and blue, the cones in our eyes when we're that age just attracted to it. It's just how it's our anatomy. So with that, how do we continue on is we need to think about, I can't. So I have a quote over here. I have it on my wall because I say all the time, too many smart visionaries end up playing too small because we start with what needs to get done versus who we need in our lives to accomplish this vision. It's not what, it's who. Who do we need in our life to help us accelerate that belief shift, accelerate the logic, the plan. So it's both emotional and logistical. It's both. And you need coaches for both. I have multiple coaches, and it's not that's fancy or that's nice. It's a necessity. It's like food and water and shelter.
It really is. It's what really made me go from that despair place to that aware place.
Despair to aware. I love that. Yes, yes, and yes. By the way, the book is called Who Not How. I did not write it, but it is a great book. And it's one that when I was teaching for years, my students would say, I read this book and it sounded like you. So the book is Who Not How by Dan Sullivan. So if you're wondering where that's from, but it's who do we need in our life? Who do we need in our life to make our vision a reality? And it's probably not going to be just one person.
Facts.
Well, I mean, I think about, I just celebrated my 26th wedding anniversary yesterday.
Congratulations.
Yay. Thank you. I made it. We didn't kill each other. It's amazing. And people say, well, how did you do it? How do you stay together that long? It's because I don't expect my spouse to be my everything. I expect him to be who he is, and together we'll find a way through. But if he has to be my hiking partner and my kayak buddy and the guy that I go to the movies with and the person who likes to eat sushi, well, he doesn't like any of those things, but he's really good at other things. And so I can't place all of my hopes, dreams, and aspirations outside of myself. I'm in control of my own destiny. And I know that me guiding the way, I like to have, even Luke Skywalker had Yoda, right? So find your Yoda, find your guide, find your mentor, and know that it's a necessity, not a nice to have.
What was like the biggest myth that you were able to bust open when you started out? Like, for me, it was you had to have this and this and this and this and this to get started. And they would give you like this huge list of things that you had to have before you would be successful.
Right. Well, yeah, there's a lot of definitions in there. First, define successful, right? My definition was different than a lot of those people. And those things are their recipe. Kind of like my grandmother's lasagna. I learned there's a lot of ways to make lasagna. You can make noodle-less lasagna. I don't prefer it, but it is available. You can make lasagna with white sauce. You can make lasagna with red sauce. You can make lasagna with veggies. You can make lasagna with meat. You can use ricotta. You can use cottage cheese. There's 1,000 ways to mix and match that recipe. At the end of the day, you're feeding your family. And so define the success and then evaluate all their recipes and then determine for yourself. Hold your own power. You are powerful and you can determine what that is. And then select the guides that you prefer, right? So if you prefer red sauce and meat lasagna, as I do, then find somebody who's really good at making that and hang out with them a little bit.
And they exist. I swear.
They do.
They exist.
And if you don't know, Google it or Perplexity it or ask a friend.
And what was the biggest lesson that you've learned so far? I'm sure there will be more. There's always more.
Always more. The biggest lesson I've learned in business?
Yes.
Online? Because I think it's a specific, is that what you mean? Or business in general?
Just in general, like as an entrepreneur,
okay.
What is one of the biggest lessons that's helped you to be able to get to where you are?
Yeah. I want to say grace, like with myself. I mean, here's what I hear every day. Renee, I'm sorry, I'm so behind. No, you're not. You're exactly where you're supposed to be, my friend. Well, I didn't get everything done that you recommended. You know what? I didn't either. So recommendations are recommendations, Some weeks are better than others. Some days are better than others. And as my mom used to say, every dog has its day, Renee, and today's not yours. No, she didn't say the last part. I just made that up. So every dog has his day. In other words, when we go, so she would say that to me when I remember her specifically saying that to me when I was in middle school. And as a girl in middle school, as any child in middle school, it is not a friendly place. So I'm a survivor. I'm a middle school survivor. And so she was talking to me about that because I was coming home saying, Tina has this and, Jesse has that. And I was basically having FOMO, right? Like if I only had those jeans, if I only had that hairstyle, I then would, or that lunchbox, or I then would have all the fame and love that I deserve. And she's like, every dog has his day. Like be you, which my takeaway was be myself and find my people, right? That's sort of the takeaway. So same goes in business. If you meet somebody, if you're listening to this and you're selling your own services and you meet someone and you talk to them and you qualify them and you think, well, I really feel like I understand what they're trying to accomplish. And then you make them an invitation for something and they're like, oh my gosh, no. Then just own the fact that it's not your offer that was wrong. It's just maybe you just didn't get the full picture. Maybe they weren't totally forthcoming. I would guarantee there's pieces of their situation, whatever that is, that were left out. And that meant your offer, your invitation made sense based on what you knew, but it didn't make sense based on the whole picture because they hadn't shared enough with you. And so don't feel like, oh, my offer sucks because someone said no, or, oh, I suck because someone said no, or no one's said yes. And I put out 10 posts and, 5 emails, and we can start to really feel down about ourselves. I've had lots of offers that didn't fly, and I've had lots of offers that are the same that flew at different times and different seasons based on a lot of variables that are completely out of my control.
And you just can't do the defeat thing, the self-defeating when it doesn't work out. I spend a lot of time like really beating up on myself because it didn't work out and thinking I was wrong and I had done something or I was defective in some way. I wasn't worthy of what I was asking. Right.
We are worthy. And
yes.
So if you have it on your heart to help somebody, because that's really what we are as entrepreneurs. We're helpers, right? We're helpers that figured out that we're good at one thing or this certain thing that people have come to us. Again, we typically started doing it for free. And then we realized that we're pretty good at it. Usually the people that we were doing it for were like, here's money because you're so good at this. And you're like, wait, I can charge for this. And then we start to charge for it. And then something shifts. We're like, I now have to act differently because I'm charging for it. No, act as if you're giving it away. The money is just one way to do what you do. Right. And back in the day before they had money, I mean, do we have money anymore? Is it just all electronic?
That's right. Digital dollars.
Before there's currency, there were goats and rocks and animal skins. And, we've, as a human race, we've always exchanged goods for services. And so, so we've exchanged things. So what does that look like in your world? If you don't need a goat, and they don't have a goat to give, well, then what is the exchange for your efforts? Because it's okay, because they're getting something and you're giving something. But what's the
This
exchange?
conversation is so good. Oh my gosh. So if you could give one piece of advice to somebody who might be thinking, I have gifts and I have talents and I am really good at this thing, and maybe I could charge for it. What would your advice be to that person?
So they're at this point, they're determining that if they should and how much. Is that what I'm hearing?
Like just determining like if they can really make a business out of selling their expertise.
Well, I go back, when you asked me that question, the first thought that came to my mind was my first sales manager. He's like, you're never going to know if they want it, Renee, unless you pull it out of the trunk and give it to them and see if they're willing to pay you, or they got to give it back. And so in that realm, what does that look like in today's world? Because that was like in 1994. And so it looks like I can give you a 20-minute mini session for free. And then I can give you some homework, right? We get a little taste test. Like, what does that taste test look like? Hey, listen, if you like this, or if you think we should work together, then let's do a little taste test. And then I'll give you some homework. We'll meet back up in a couple of days' time, and I'll just see how you're doing. And based on how you're doing, we'll decide what your next steps are. Like, if they rock and roll and they're like, this is great, I can go and run for 10 miles like this. You're like, awesome. Do you want to hear what it might look like for me to support you in other ways? No, man, I'm awesome. I'm cool. All right, awesome. Well, let's check in again in like a month or two. I'll put it on my calendar now. Good. You got it? Okay, cool. Just see how you're doing. Because eventually we know, because we've been to the mountain and back again, that they're going to hit a wall. We're not trying to help them hit a wall. We're just trying to give them everything that they need, but we can't, God gave us free will. So we have free will. Everybody has free will. So they're going to believe what they want. Others, though, after they get that free taste test, they're like, I never really looked at the things you shared with me in that way. Yeah, I actually thought about this. Do you have room for me? Is there a chance I could work with you? Well, yes, there is. Let me ask you a couple more questions to make sure that I give you the right invitation, and then we'll take it from there. Does that sound good? Okay, cool. All right. Well, let me ask you a couple questions. All right. Based on that, let me repeat everything back to you. Make sure I got it right. Okay. Well, I think this might be a perfect fit for this. What do you think? Oh, that'd be great. Oh, great. When did you want to start? I can start next week. Okay, great. Tuesday it is. Let me open up my calendar. Put it in Tuesday. Did you get it on your side? Okay, great. While I'm hooking this up, I'll give you the link. You take care of the payment, and I'll take care of the calendar. Sound good? Okay, cool. And then go from there.
And if listeners, just to let you know, if you want even more support with this stuff, Renee has a best-selling book out there called Selling Your Expertise, and it can totally rock your world.
Woohoo! There it is. It's backward because of the camera, but yes.
No, it's perfect.
Selling Your Expertise. Yes. I wrote this with love. This, I've been coaching for a long time. This book just came out. Thank you for mentioning that. And people that have been coached by me, that were a part of my launch team, they were like, wow, everything's in one place. Like, absolutely. So yeah, that is my brain in a book.
And you're also launching a podcast, and I cannot wait. Wait. Do you want to tell the listeners a little bit about what's upcoming about that?
Yes. So the podcast has a new format. I've had other podcasts, like a lot of entrepreneurs. We try things. Some things work. Some things don't work as right. And so you're allowed to evolve, right? You're allowed to rebirth, right? Phoenix. And so, it's a Monday and a Friday episode. They're usually about 10-ish minutes. And so Monday we set up the week, Friday we close out the week. And it's just to keep in the right mindset and action mode of, I am going to give myself out to the world. I'm going to share my gifts with the world, and I'm not going to back down, because I am here to help people. I'm here to help. And in exchange for that help, I'm going to receive money. And in that case, with that money, I can live in the house I want to live in. I can send my kids to school wherever I think is best for them. I can eat the food I want to eat. I can buy the organic lettuce.
You say something on a regular basis about everybody that you meet.
Yes, I do.
Can you say that, please?
Yes. Yes, I will. Thank you for that prompt. It is true. And it is a belief that I have to my core. And if you're listening to this now and you're a little worried about reaching out to people, about being too direct, or some might say pushy or salesy, I'm going to say you're reaching out with this intention. And Stephanie, you're so good at this, because every time I've met with you, you're like, before we get started, can we set an intention? And that speaks to my yoga heart so deeply. I do that for myself every day, but to have it with you in this space, really powerful. So if you're listening, she's so good. So it starts with the intention, and this belief is, before I make that post or before I reach out to anybody, before I get on a Zoom call, here is the intention I'm setting, which is every person I meet, the time that I spend getting to know them is always going to be valuable, because every single person is either a client, which is something we've talked about so far, but there's also the value of being a connector or a collaborator. So everybody we meet is a client, connector, or collaborator. Everybody, including your cousin, your neighbor, the other parents at the soccer field, the people that are on your Facebook page or your Instagram or your LinkedIn, everybody you meet is either a client, connector, or collaborator, but they can't be if they don't know you well enough or if you don't know them well enough, right? So where does that actual shift happen? It's in genuinely getting to know people. And we live in the internet age, so information age. Everybody you can find out almost anything about anybody. And for those of us who are parents, the moms, I believe every mom has a little FBI agent inside of her.
Truth.
So use that FBI agent skill and look people up. Like, if you're going to meet with somebody, Google them, type their name into YouTube, see what pops up, type their name into Amazon, see what pops up, type their name into Pinterest. These are all search engines, right? Type their name into Spotify. Maybe they've been a guest on a podcast or have a podcast and you can hear more about them. There's no reason why we should go into any relationship blind anymore. And so if you're not in that practice, that's a practice to have. And you don't have to do it secretly. In that case, it's, like FBI agents, you can tell them like, hey, I looked you up and I'm so excited about this. I can't wait to talk to you more about it.
I'm so excited that you joined us here on the show today. I love talking to you. I love your energy. I love all of the things that you've shared with me so far and what you continue to share.
Thank you.
And where can people go to learn more about you and how to connect with you and how to tune into your brilliance?
Thank you. The main place is my website. So it's just myname.com. So you're seeing it here on the screen, or you're hearing it. If it's the podcast, I'm sure it'll be in the show notes, ReneeHribar.com. That's where everything is, especially my free sales training. So just like I encouraged you to give a little taste for free, I do that too. I practice what I preach. So check out the free sales training, and then you get to see, well, what is this chick like for real? And then if you're on my email list, here's a fun thing. You can hit reply to any email I ever send you and ask me anything, and I'll answer.
And she means it. I swear to God, she's like one of the most amazing people to have in your world if you are an entrepreneur or selling your expertise in any way.
I will receive. I need it. I need it like everybody else.
Thank you for joining us. We've been here with Renee Hribar. She's been shining in her brilliance and dropping gems all over this show. So be sure to go back and listen to the parts. Read the notes that you took, because I know you took some. Go to her website, get her free sales course, and then start using your gifts and making money and making sales, because you deserve to do that for yourself.
Yay!
I'm your host, Stephanie Kathan. You've been listening to another episode of the MindGrowRadio Storyteller Series. And until we meet again, keep shining in your brilliance. See you next time, everybody.
Thank you.